Oh, finally, you stand and fight! Jeff is now to his feet, blood and vodka on his face. Once again, he gets that strange feeling, the one in which he hasn't felt for a while. Finally, he's up, says Randy as he runs at Jeff. That's when it happens. Something inside Jeff snaps. His psyche is destroyed. All rational thinking is gone. All he can do is kill.
Hiya, freaks and ghouls, slashers and psychopaths, scaredy cats and scaredy dogs. I'm your horror host with the motherfucking most, the Headless Glen, and welcome to the Scaling Cemetery, where we dig up the stats of horrific individuals and bury the misconceptions, while I continue to work on the script for my fucking magnum opus, which is currently over fucking 65 pages in length. I have realized I need to upload videos to actually have a fucking YouTube channel. Sorry to the Steves and other lovely bastards who are waiting so long for my magnum opus. I promise it is coming as soon as inhumanly possible. But now that I plan on uploading again, where better to start than back with my creepypasta roots. While I have covered the eyeless bitch in the past, who, despite the fact he is fodder, is quite popular in the fandom, he is far from as popular as the character we are covering today. One who is only rivaled by Slender Man in terms of notoriety. That's right, in this video we are covering the edgy asshole himself, Jeff the Killer. But not the bizarre, downright fucking insane original version of the character created by Cesar, who I will not talk about too much at this moment. Hint, hint. Today we are covering the version that popularized the character and led to the creation of so many damn rip-offs and alternate interpretations. Game Fuel TV's Jeff the Killer, though allegedly it was made by the dude's brother. This version is also referred to as Jeff the Killer 2011, or as I refer to him, Classic Jeff the Killer. Given his notoriety when bitches talk about his ass in any context, but especially in the power scaling circles, this is the version generally being mentioned, or at least one of the fucking stories always included in the discussion. It should be noted that for this video, I'll only be going over this specific story, not any spin-offs for the story written by other bastards, as it feels a bit uninteresting to me to go through everyone's fan fictions related to this fan interpretation of the original Jeff. It is like scaling SCP, absolutely abysmal to go through, and would take fucking forever, which my magnum opus already is, so why would I want two projects like that? Thus, many of these stories seem inconsistent with the plot elements and physical showings within this Creepypasta Classics, so I'm not going to muddy the fucking waters here. Maybe I'll go over the stories I feel make up the Jeff the Killer mythos some other time, giving you fucks a semi-composite version of the character, including his more popular and notable stories most people know about. But for now, don't go to sleep as we slice through the misinformation and get to the heart of this icon scaling. Taking a stab at Jeff's physicals, we will be going over his strength and durability feats in semi-chronological order, which, funnily enough, brings us to something I have to immediately explain away. Jeff somewhat physically struggles against what the story describes as a fucking young boy, like he's Mr. Burns or something. The reason this isn't as damned as it sounds is characters considered children within this story all show pretty crazy feats. For example, Randy, Troy, and Keith were all able to jump over a fence while on their skateboards. While this might not seem too crazy at a glance, given they are explicitly on skateboards while doing this, It means all three of them, including Troy, who's the resident fat joke of the story, were able to clear the fence in a single leap while doing an ollie. It should be noted, a fence in a fancy neighborhood like the story portrays would likely be a classic wooden fence, which can generally range from 6 to 8 feet in height. For reference, the world record for the high jump was roughly a quarter inch over 8 feet, and this is while at a full sprint and jumping in an arc. Much more impressive is comparing this to the ollie world record, which is 45 inches, or rather 3 feet 9 inches, which would mean these boys at worst are doing near double the world record for ollies, while at best potentially matching the world record high jump without even using the typical techniques. Seriously, what the hell are these people on? And can I have some? A decaying body doesn't do much for the mobility, you know. I wonder if a blood transplant would assist me, get the old joints a-moving again. Anyway, what makes this even more crazy is that Randy, Troy, and Keith are all about 12 years old, with Jeff only being 13. Furthermore, Lou, who is also a kid likely around the age of the other boys, was implied to be able to knock the lights out of Randy if he wasn't being threatened with knives, even despite the fact Randy does use kicks constantly while fighting, meaning Lou would likely scale to physical strikes that can propel these kids and their skateboards over at least 6-foot tall walls. So yeah, this random fucking kid that Jeff didn't kill immediately definitely wasn't some normal real-world child. Even then, the implication is the boy is scared for his life, implying his ass is in danger, so Jeff should upscale anyway. We will touch back on the jumping feat when it becomes relevant. I just needed it to be known, children from Jeff the Killer are built fucking different. Unlike me, who's currently built like a fucking saltine cracker. Moving on, we have the scene where Randy and his assholes tried to bully Jeff and Lou, in which Jeff easily breaks the bitch's wrist, which could have been done in a few different ways. Though, since it doesn't state Jeff crushes it or anything, I assume this could have been done like it is done sometimes in martial arts, through technique rather than raw strength. If it was pure strength, breaking bones generally comes out to, at worst, 375 joules of energy, or what is considered street level in most tiering systems. Jeff then throws Randy, who, given his age of 12, would likely weigh between 66 and 130 pounds pretty casually. Not too crazy, all things considered, but notable. Then Jeff punches Troy so hard he throws up everywhere, like he was just hit by Noob Saibot's X-Ray in Mortal Kombat 9. Not only does Troy puke, but this punch leaves him incapacitated and with a notable bruise on his stomach. Given the effects of the punch, it is likely it caused some minor internal damage. Now, there is nothing too superhuman about the stomach punch, or honestly even the wrist breakage, until we take the damn jumping feat into account, as it should actually scale to the bully's durability, as every action has an equal and opposite reaction according to physics, meaning since these kids' legs didn't fucking blow up by performing these physical feats, their durability would scale to the feat. We love Isaac Newton, guys. The way we calculate this shit, from what I've seen, is by finding the potential energy, which is mass times acceleration times height. Our mass is the weight of the bullies, which would vary given they all weigh differently, but since Jeff scales to all of them, we will be going with the heaviest of the group, Troy. I'm sorry, man. As it will give us the best result. Being generous to Troy, we will say he is at the lowest 130 pounds, or 58.967 kilograms, which is still considered healthy, something the story constantly reminds us he's not. But
Given we don't know his weight, anything beyond this is a bit hard to quantify. So our mass will be at least 58.967 kilograms, and our acceleration will be how fast the Earth is pulling against the one who's jumping, or 9.807 meters per second squared. Finally, for the height of the jump, we will take the average between the 6 and 8 foot height, granting us 7 feet, or 2.1336 meters. This grants us a hell of a result, being over 1,233 joules. Still what most consider street level, but pretty cool nonetheless. This is consistent with the fact Troy would also fall this distance too, with no issue whatsoever, which when plugged into the lovely Splat calculator, which is just wonderful for calculating things like this, results in over 1,232 joules. Jeff easily harms Troy, so he should at least scale relative to, or more reasonably, above this level of power. Now, at this point, we need to talk about the party scene, as other than Randy dropping a cold-ass one-liner, "Oh no, I don't go for even. I go for winning." There's information here that gives context to things that might be seen as contradictory. You see, Jeff was holding back during the initial parts of the fight pretty blatantly. While he does briefly headbutt Randy, this is merely used to get Randy's ass off of him. Throughout the early part of the fight, Jeff is objectively very passive, and even tries to get away at one point, which gets him thrown through a patio door. Dick move, by the way, Troy. Given the feats earlier, Randy and Troy shouldn't have even been able to touch Jeff like they do now, much less grab him, punch him, or stab him. Randy even notes this himself, telling Jeff to actually fight back, and attempting to goad Jeff through taunts about Lou. It should also be noted, aside from the knife stab, Jeff is only notably hurt by Randy after numerous fucking kicks. Kicks that, mind you, allow him to leap anywhere from 6 to 8 feet in the goddamn air, even while Randy is literally lifting Jeff, throwing him into different rooms of the house and smashing a vodka bottle on his head like some WWE heel ambush. Jeff is still conscious, taking the shit and not trying to stop Randy. Once Jeff locks in and his psyche snaps, while his performance against the bully's stereotypes is very good, it should be noted he is clearly weakened here, which makes it even more impressive. A weakened Jeff is able to knock down Randy easily, and then stop Randy's heart with a single punch like a fucking anime martial art, with this type of injury typically being classified as commotio cordis. Commotio cordis is described by the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia as an extremely rare condition that can occur when a hard object, such as a baseball or lacrosse ball, hits the chest directly over the heart at a specific time, disrupting the normal heart rhythm and leading to sudden cardiac arrest. It is even stated by the Cleveland Clinic, MedMD, and a 2012 research article that physical strikes can cause this effect, though these are likely in regards to an adult man striking the heart, not some superhuman adolescent, so the applicability is a bit dubious. Again, this effect is quite rare and requires specific stimuli to induce, so the fact it seems Jeff knew for certain that his attack would stop Randy's heart, I mean, why else would he aim for that fucking spot, is rather impressive, giving Jeff a technique in which he can somewhat negate conventional durability, in a similar way to pressure points on some Kenshiro and hit type shit. While this feat is impressive, the attack potency of the strike likely isn't one of the main factors. The feats after this are purely physical though, as a weakened Jeff is able to punch Randy's body to the point fucking blood comes out of it. It should be noted, it doesn't say Randy coughed up blood like Jeff did after multiple kicks, but rather blood gushed from his damn body, implying his physical strikes were at the very least breaking Randy's skin, potentially even fucking tearing into Bro's body. He then tears a towel rack out of the wall and kills Troy on impact with it, one-shotting him. And then, with another single strike, puts Keith in critical condition to the point he's literally dying. Again, Jeff does this while fucking weakened, implying Jeff would be able to do this shit far easier at his best. The final feat, one that is overlooked but that I alluded to earlier, is the fact Jeff overpowers Lou, even as Lou thrashes to get Jeff off of him. This is notable as, again, Lou was implied to be able to knock the lights out of Randy, but he hadn't because he was worried about the knives of the bullies. To build on that with an even more impressive implication, the cops believed Lou could have beaten the three boys by himself, though he would have taken minor damage. Jeff upscaling Lou is pretty blatant, as aside from him showing he would take no damage fighting the bullies, Lou was in utter fucking amazement at how Jeff took the bullies apart, metaphorically speaking, and could have done nothing to stop Jeff or even intervene. All he could say was, "Jeff, how'd you..." Great English, by the way, Lou. Jeff even confirms Lou couldn't stop him, validating the idea he should definitely scale above his brother. With this knowledge, Jeff, if he had really been trying to kill the three bullies at the beginning of the story, could have done so extremely easily, as he scales above someone who could believably take out Randy, more likely his whole squad, while receiving minor damage. This also implies, as if what I had said didn't make it fucking clear, Jeff was holding back against the bullies in their initial encounter, meaning Jeff should upscale their leaping feat by a large but unquantifiable margin, leaving his attack potency and durability rating at least street level, by most scaling site standards. Jeff's only lackluster feat is he was nearly killed by being set on fire, the poor bastard, though again, he is weakened at the time, which I will fully explain in the next section. I know I keep harping on it. So it doesn't really mean too much, and wouldn't change his scaling anyway. Now with speed feats, again, we will be going pretty much in chronological order, though I have to cover some fucking misconceptions at the end of this section and make those bastards go to sleep. Starting off, Jeff easily blitzes Randy before he can react, bashing him in the face. He also breaks Randy's wrist and disarms him before he can defend himself. Speed blitzing the perception of a human depends on the human themselves, and given we don't have much to go on, blitzing Randy would likely be the equivalent of blitzing at least a normal fucking human being, with average individuals being able to process images in 1/10 of a second, which would have Jeff moving at peak human speeds bare minimum. Jeff is stated to be blatantly too quick for Keith and Troy, with Jeff dodging around Keith and stabbing him without Keith being able to even stop him. Again, the speed here is a bit dubious, but he would be faster than the average individual at the very least. Jeff further shows his speed, even when he's weakened, with Jeff hitting Randy's heart and seemingly inducing commotio cordis. The reason this may be a speed feat is a few sources, one by a National Athletic Trainers Association, one by the Cleveland Clinic, and one by MedMD, all imply that causing commotio cordis through a physical strike is possible, but generally is more common at punching speeds of 35 to 40 miles per hour, with the Cleveland Clinic and MedMD articles implying the physical strikes would have to at least be 40 miles per hour to even be possible. This is likely for a normal adult, however, not a somewhat superhuman kid, so making the comparison 1-to-1 is a bit dubious, but still noticeable. If this speed is taken into account,
Jeff would have combat speeds that are classified as superhuman bare minimum according to most scaling sites, though with this result likely falling short of Keith Lindell's world record punch of 45 miles per hour. The issue with that being his cap, however, is this is a weakened Jeff we are talking about, so at his best, he likely would be capable of throwing punches at likely comparable speeds to the fastest punches humans have ever produced. A weakened Jeff then easily dodges Troy's attack and counterattacks before he can block. Finally, getting into the most blatant showing of how weakened Jeff is, Keith is now able to dodge Jeff's swing, something he couldn't do earlier, allowing Keith to get his hands on Jeff, getting to his highest possible speed. At least if you take it at face value, Jeff was able to kill his parents before they heard another sound, which could imply he was able to kill them before sound could reach them and was processed, which would possibly be vaguely above the speed of sound, or what most would call supersonic. Now, if you have been in the Creepypasta power scaling circles long enough, I am sure you've come across statements from people claiming Jeff the Killer within the original story dodged bullets. Sadly, this is not and never has been the case. Nowhere in the original story does it state Jeff dodges fucking gunfire. Sure, he is shot at by Troy and Keith, but it is pretty explicit. The shots simply miss his edgy ass. It is even stated that he hears gunfire behind him, which unless this bastard has spider sense, he would have to be looking at the bully brigade coming at him to see and dodge the bullets. This isn't even inconsistent, regardless of if you give classic Jeff supersonic speed, as his feet is just vaguely above Mach 1, or the speed of sound, with most bullets being far faster than that, and more quantifiably so. I mean, Jeff just looks at the gun and books it, though admittedly, he is weakened at this point, which I need to hammer home, so it is likely he couldn't access higher speed stuff anyway, especially given the fact a casual, not willing to kill Jeff at the beginning of the story, dodged around Keith and blitzed him, but now, when he is stated to be bloodlusted, only able to kill, he is so weakened, Keith is able to dodge an attack from him and put his hands on him. So could Jeff dodge bullets? Probably not. Does he ever dodge bullets in the story? Hell no. And with that, we have finished his physical, so let's evaluate the skills and abilities he brings to the table. This section will be a bit less organized than the rest, but honestly, who fucking cares? Starting off with something he is iconic for, his skills with a knife. While he really doesn't have many technical feats with the thing, Jeff does seem proficient with throwing his knife in combat, which is definitely a damn good skill to have, especially when you are running into people with the common American disagreement solver, the gun. It gives him a ranged option he really needs when going up against many characters in a cross-verse setting. He also shows a lot of fighting skill, though it seems he has no formal training, unlike other versions of the character. He is able to break Randy's wrist, possibly through a technique similar to those in martial arts, and could disarm Randy easily. He can dodge around attacks and is shown being able to twist Randy's leg to make him fall over when Jeff was being attacked and notably holding back. He is just generally a pretty damn solid brawler with some latent skill. He does possess a pretty dope technique though, which arguably ignores conventional durability, that being the fucking heart-stopping punch, likely acting similar to pressure point attacks as I previously mentioned, which uses the human body's functions against itself to deal damage and effects that conventionally aren't possible. It should be noted, this technique wouldn't work on beings with anatomies far different from humans, creatures or beings without hearts, and beings who don't require their heart to beat like yours truly. Eat your heart out, Light Yagami. Who needs a fucking book when you have a fucking fist? Finally, Jeff seems somewhat adept with stealth, as he's able to sneak into the young boy's bedroom and remain there without his bitch ass being initially noticed, though admittedly he snuck in there while the kid was fucking asleep and it was fucking dark outside. Now onto the section I like to call abilities the fandom thinks he has, but kinda doesn't. Breaking into this section, we have Regeneration, a popular ability for Jeff reimaginings and spin-offs, which without context might make some sense here. I mean, it would be considered rather fucking low as he simply healed faster than normal people would have, being released in 2 weeks from the hospital, whereas burns like his would likely take at least 3 weeks, even months to fully heal. The issue is, it is never noted to be due to some higher level of regeneration, and it is more likely he was recovering because the hospital locked in. It also is a bit dubious if he's fully healed anyway, as he was allegedly hopped up on painkillers while he was leaving, which actually leads us into his alleged pain resistance. This one, I think, is a bit more dubious, as he is able to fucking carve up his face like a Thanksgiving turkey, and push through the JJK jumping during Billy's birthday party. But in the face carving scene, he is literally sobbing while doing so, and just smiling for a long period of time hurts his face so much that he decides cutting it would be better in the long run. He also needs painkillers while in the hospital, which if he was there for 2 weeks and was resistant to pain, why would they have him on so many drugs that him acting fucking loony is considered normal? So while this is more of a maybe, and he definitely is able to push himself to do some insane things, pain clearly has a big effect on him, something that is far different in other stories. While classic Jeff the Killer is arguably overhyped, he is a pretty fun street-level slasher-esque character, possessing at least superhuman to possibly supersonic speeds, being adept with stealth tactics, and is a skilled knife combatant who is also quite proficient at hand-to-hand fighting, at least for an untrained individual, possibly possessing a technique that he can use to stop his opponent's heart. Rereading the story, while the writing doesn't really hold up, I must admit there will always be aspects of the story that make me view it fondly. In many ways, it is understandable that remakes like this surpass the original in terms of popularity, much like other remakes such as The Thing and The Fly. There are a few characters I think making classic Jeff fight would be fun, such as Classic Jeff versus Eyeless Jack, which I will happily put in production, if you guys want that. Any other videos y'all desire, feel free to ask me about it. Preferably horror-related, though. Again, still working on my big video. Those who know, don't spoil it, please. With all that said, stay frosty, you fucks.